We all know the story of the Titanic. But what you probably don't know is that for decades after we found it, the race to claim its treasures was a total free-for-all. Touching the Titanic today could land you in some serious legal trouble. So, what happened? Down 2.5 miles in the dark North Atlantic, the world's most famous shipwreck lies. It's a haunting reminder of the over 1,500 lives lost on that frigid night back in 1912. For 73 years, it was totally off the radar. But when it finally popped up in 1985, it sparked a wild gold rush. Treasure hunters, rival teams, and legal battles all jumped in, threatening to tear the wreck apart. But now, that's all over. The Titanic is shielded by a powerful international agreement that treats the wreck not as a treasure chest, but as a gravesite. How did we go from a salvage free-for-all to a point where disturbing the site is now a crime? When oceanographer Robert Ballard and his team found the Titanic in 1985, the whole world was captivated. The images of the grand staircase and the massive hole sitting on the ocean floor were unforgettable. Ballard believed the site was a memorial and chose not to salvage anything. But his good intentions weren't legally binding. Here's the problem. The Titanic lies in international waters, about 350 nautical miles off the coast of Newfoundland, Canada. It's a legal gray zone where no single country has jurisdiction. Because Ballard didn't make a formal claim, the door was wide open for others, and what followed was basically a deep-sea Wild West. Expeditions were launched for the sole purpose of bringing up artifacts. The main player was a company now called RMS Titanic Inc., or RMST, using submersibles. They started pulling up thousands of items from the debris field between the two main sections of the wreck. They brought up everything: porcelain dishes, leather suitcases, money, even a huge piece of the hull. The company said they were preserving history, but their actions were hugely controversial. To many people, including survivors, families, it was just grave robbing. The whole thing sparked a huge debate. Was the Titanic a historical site to be plundered, or was it a tomb that should be left in peace? It became clear that without rules, the wreck would be picked clean and its story lost forever. Someone had to step in. The United States Congress was the first to act. Worried about a total free-for-all, they passed the RMS Titanic Maritime Memorial Act of 1986. This was a big deal. For the first time, a government officially called the Titanic a maritime memorial for those who died. The law's main goal was to get an international agreement in place, so it directed the U.S. to start talks with the United Kingdom, France, and Canada. But the 1986 Act had a major flaw. It had no real teeth. It was a strong statement, but it couldn't actually stop anyone from another country from heading out to the site in international waters. The law was more of a suggestion for cooperation than a real legal barrier. So, the Wild West days continued, and artifacts kept coming to the surface. It was obvious that just calling it a memorial wasn't going to be enough. A much stronger, binding agreement was needed to truly protect the Titanic's final resting place. After years of talks, the solution finally came as a powerful international treaty. The agreement concerning the shipwrecked vessel, RMS Titanic, spearheaded by the UK and the US, this agreement was meant to be the final word in protecting the wreck. The UK signed on in 2003 and the US in 2004. But it needed to be ratified by both countries to have the full force of law. The turning point finally came in November 2019, and the United States officially ratified the treaty, bringing it into full effect. This gave both the US and UK governments the power to control who gets to go near the wreck. They can now grant or deny permits for any expedition that wants to enter the Titanic's hull or remove anything from the site. To back this up, both countries passed their own laws. In the US, Congress passed a law in 2017 that is crystal clear. It says that no person shall conduct any research, exploration, salvage, or other activity that would physically alter or disturb the wreck or wreck site of the RMS Titanic unless authorized by the Secretary of Commerce. Suddenly, the game had completely changed. Any American or British citizen or any ship flying their flags now needs a permit to do anything that might disturb the site. Breaking this law comes with serious legal consequences. The era of unregulated expeditions was over. This legal shift is one of the most important parts of the Titanic story, but most people have never heard about it. If you find this kind of hidden history fascinating, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell. We explore stories like this every week, and you don't want to miss what we uncover next. So what does this legal protection actually mean for the Titanic? First, it means the wreck has to be treated with the sensitivity and respect owed to the final resting place of more than 1,500 lives. The guiding rule of the agreement is in situ, preservation, leaving the wreck as it is, where it is. The goal is to let it rest in peace, without humans getting in the way. There's another layer of protection too. In 2012, on the 100th anniversary of the sinking, the wreck site automatically came under the protection of the UNESCO 2001 Convention on the Protection of the Underwater Cultural Heritage. This convention recognizes sites that have been underwater for 100 years and calls for them to be protected from being plundered. While UNESCO's protection is a powerful symbol, the US-UK treaty is what provides the actual enforcement. Together, these rules create a very strict permit system. It is no longer legal for anyone under US or UK jurisdiction to just go and poke around the wreck. To get a permit now, an expedition has to have a clear scientific, cultural, or historical purpose. Treasure hunting is off the table completely. Any plan will be scrutinized to make sure it has minimal impact and doesn't disturb any human remains. This effectively puts an end to commercial salvage. Look but don't touch is now the law. Even with this strong legal framework, there are still challenges. The Titanic is in international waters, which makes enforcement tricky for countries that haven't signed the treaty. But the agreement is still a huge deterrent. Since most deep-sea expeditions involve citizens or ships from the US or UK, both countries are actively pushing other nations, like Canada and France, to formally join the agreement and create an even stronger shield. These laws have already run into some big challenges. RMST, the company with salvage rights from a US court, has been in a tussle with the government over new digs. Back in 2020, they tried to snag the ship's Marconi telegraph, arguing it's a priceless piece of history that could easily fall apart. The government pushed back, citing the new laws that require federal permission. More recently, after a planned 2024 expedition was challenged by the government, the company announced it had no plans for a 2025 mission and was shelving its salvage efforts for now. The message is clear. The US government is serious about enforcing this treaty. The Titanic story is far from over. The ship itself is in a constant state of decay, as iron-eating bacteria slowly consume the hull. Scientists estimate that in the next few decades, much of the wreck could collapse entirely. This new era of protection isn't about stopping nature. It's about stopping us from speeding up the process. It's about making sure the ship's final chapter is one of quiet dignity, not a spectacle for profit. It's a recognition that some places are more than just curiosities. They're memorials and they're sacred. The Titanic has had quite the story, right? From a lost legend to a diver's dream, and now it's a protected site? Thanks to an agreement between the US and the UK. What was once a treasure hunter's playground is now a safe haven on the seafloor. The law now says that the true value of the Titanic isn't in the objects you can take from it, but in the memory it holds. It's a powerful statement that this underwater grave should be left in peace. But what's your take? Is this the right level of protection? Or should we be doing more to recover artifacts for future generations before the wreck is gone forever? Let us know what you think in the comments below. Thanks for watching.